everybody some bonus content from
The Geek Buddies!
Hey! And tonight we're going to give you our review of Onward. This is this spoiler review, so we will be talking about stuff that happened in the movie. So if you haven't seen it, thanks for the click. Pause it, go to your local theater, watch it, come back, unpause it, and keep watching and see if you agree with our points of views about the movie. This is Pixar's latest film, directed by Dan Scanlon. I'm John Rocha, writer, producer, and host.
I'm Michael Vogel, apparently early. Writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor, where you may have seen me on 911, Silicon Valley, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
It would be the actor who messed up the line. Anyway,
I need another take. I need another take.
So this one, we were excited. I think I went with Michael to go see this one.
First of all,
yeah.
I was the most excited about this movie. I just
were.
want to go on record.
Yes,
you
that's
two
fair.
were sort of lukewarm on these trailers.
To say the least.
Yes.
That's for sure. This one is directed by Dan Scanlon. As we said, it's set in a suburban fantasy world. Two teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there is still magic out there as they try to bring their father back to life for one day because of a spell he left. It's Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Octavia Spencer, and there's only 13 actors in this film, so it was a limited number of characters for a Pixar movie, kind of rare in that way. But what was your overall impression of the movie? Anyone want to go first?
Well, is it Dan or Don?
Oh, sorry, Dan Scanlon.
Dan
Sorry
Scanlon.
about that, Dan Scanlon.
Yeah, the trailers did
Let's
not...
start there, troll. All right, and we go, yeah.
I was just clarifying.
I'll clarify something for you.
Anyway. You want that second take now, don't you? The trailers did not have me that jazzed to see it. Pixar, I've always enjoyed Pixar movies, but as we had said way long time ago, like eventually Pixar was going to go off course, and that's happened with a handful of their movies.
Like two.
Okay, I would say more than two.
I'd say two, and a couple of the sequels are not great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I would say Good Dinosaur and Cars 2.
Well, those are the worst, for sure.
Right.
Those are the worst, for sure.
But I'll defend Cars 3. I'll defend Monsters University.
Would you defend Brave?
No, it's a tougher one.
I actually will defend parts of Brave.
I'll defend half of Brave.
I've rewatched it a number of times, and it's gone up in my estimation. The stuff that doesn't work, but I will say, this is maybe a little get yelled at here, but I think both Finding Dory and Incredibles 2 are fine.
I can't agree with Incredibles 2.
I think upon how many times have you watched it?
Incredibles 2, 2 times.
Okay, I've watched it more than that, and I think that there's scenes and moments of Incredibles 2 that we'll get to Onward in a minute.
Yeah,
I think there are scenes. I think there are scenes and moments in Incredibles 2 that are fantastic. Like there's sequences that are great. It looks gorgeous. There's some awesome action sequences, but on the whole, upon repeat viewings, it just doesn't hold up to that Pixar bar for me.
Oh, so we're on the same page. That's what I'm saying. Is Incredibles 2? I'm like, I don't think it's...
Oh, yeah, no, we're on the same page. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm glad we agree. So that's it for this geek. It's good.
I don't agree, but I respect you guys' opinion. I think Incredibles 2 is a damn good movie. Finding Dory, not so much for me. I mean, I think because I love Nemo too much.
Well, that's the thing.
I think that's my problem with it.
What a lot of these sequels have going for them, really those two, I think. Cars 2 is horrible. I will defend Cars 3, and I will get into this in a minute when we talk more about Dan Scanlon. I will defend Monsters University.
I think Monsters University is better.
I agree.
I think it's better than Monsters, Inc. It's bold. I know people disagree with this.
I might not disagree with you.
We might have to have a whole episode about that because that's probably my most controversial Pixar opinion.
Monster fraternities? Yeah, there you go.
But
an argument.
I think Incredibles 2 and Finding Dory fly by on the fact that those characters are so beloved and so likable.
Right.
But anyways,
we're moving on
to the point.
To Onward.
Speaking of
to the point, so that because of that, you guys felt that Onward was going to be kind of a miss.
Well, I mean, it wasn't because of that. It was just because what was being presented, I was not that jazzed about. The whole conceit of like this is a fantasy world that has somehow gotten on the track of our world, where they have combustion engines, they have powered gas. I just didn't quite understand it, and this is more the first trailer that I'm talking about. When the second trailer got released, and we got a view of that more emotional story, the whole thing with the dad and dad just being the legs, I was like, okay, I'm getting more on board. Watching the film, it is a delight.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was really, really fantastic. And the theater, I actually tweeted about this. I tweeted at AMC about this, that their theater was exceptionally dusty for my screening of Onward.
Oh, because you were a little emotional.
Well, no, it was dusty.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh, okay.
What is this salty discharge?
Fair enough.
Yes, I got a little, my eyes got a little misty.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in your boat. I was completely surprised about how much I enjoyed it because I had heard some mixed reviews from my friends in the sphere, my critic friends in the sphere. So I thought, oh, this is going to be okay. It's not going to be great. And as we're watching it, I was having just the most wonderful time watching the movie, really enjoying the characters, enjoying the story, really liking the chemistry between Tom Holland and Chris Pratt in the movie. I love Julie Louis-Dreyfus having more than just, oh, my kids are gone. What am I going to do? A more active part of this story. And the stuff with the dad, having lost my father, it kind of hits you in the right places when it hits you, and it's damn moving. And the way they resolve that, where it isn't that child that you think is going to talk to the dad, it's the brother who actually needs.
I literally almost yelled at you not to spoil the movie. I forgot this was a spoiler review. I was like, oh shit, don't say it.
I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I I, as anyone who's a listener or viewer knows, was really excited off the bat.
Yeah.
I got a little worried the closer we got to release because I too have some friends who work at Disney who had seen it, and they were like, oh, Onward is the crappy movie this year. Soul is the big one to be excited about. Yeah. So going in, when we went to go see it, Johnny took me to a screening. I went in excited, but I also went in kind of being like, okay, this might not be great. And kind of similar, like I'm watching the movie and I'm like, well, this is checking the boxes for me. And then I didn't just get a little misty. I wept.
Yeah. That ending gets you.
Wept. Yeah. And it is, like, I will say this, the Pixar magic to me is that they go above and beyond what I've said this before, and I can compare this to what I say about Monsters University all the time because the same thing stands, which is they go beyond what any other studio tends to tell as far as what the story is and how they resolve it. They tend to go that step beyond just here's the nice, easy message.
Right.
And in the case of Onward, the nice, easy thing is my want in this movie is I want to be able to see my dad. And based on everything that happens, he thinks he's going to spend a whole day with his dad. He thinks he's going to do whatever. And it gets to the end and you realize that's not going to happen. And I feel like any other studio would go, well, you got to spend that 1 minute with your dad and that's what mattered. And that was great.
Right.
And Pixar goes, no, you don't get to see your dad. Like, that's not going to happen. We're taking that away from you, but we're going to reveal to you that the brother that you think is a disaster has been the guy that's been raising you your whole life, and that's what's important. And it's more important for him to have that moment to say goodbye. Yeah. Like, that is just such a bigger step than you would normally tell in, like, a quote-unquote kids movie. Yeah. And that's what the Pixar magic is to me, is even though these are movies about elves or monsters or toys or fish or whatever, the stories that they're telling are not kid stories. Yeah. Like, they're telling stories for themselves, but for adults that are universal. And that to me is what made this movie great.
Yeah, and I think that's why I push back on people who say, oh, Marvel movies, superhero movies, blah, blah, blah. No, there's real emotional stories going on with these characters. Same thing happens in Onward. I mean, you can fall into that trap of thinking, oh, it's just going to be a road trip movie with these two brothers and he'll get the resolution. We'll just have to go through these hijinks and antics and they'll almost get caught or they'll almost not be able to make it and then they'll make it. But they do kind of follow that, but they are so inventive in how they kind of go against the cliche of what you think is going to happen, as we've been saying already. But also the dragon thing is really funny out of nowhere. Having the face on the dragon, even though Michael said, you could tell that was going to happen, it still worked with the placement and the timing of it when it did happen. Having what's the name of the thing? The
Manticore?
The Manticore. I mean, the Manticore thing was out of nowhere, but the Manticore thing in a microcosm was what the film was about, was this idea of remembering who you were at the beginning, embracing your magic, and being okay with embracing your magic.
Yeah, and they really did a good job of taking sort of that Dungeons and Dragons style idea we're going on a quest and presenting it in a way that if you are a D&D fan, it's great. And if you're not a D&D fan, it still takes you along for the ride. Like, we're going on a quest. Well, what do you need to do? You have to go to the Manticore's lair and find out where the treasure is. And then you find out where the treasure is. And then you have to go solve the riddles. And once you solve the riddles, you do the thing. And, like, it laid it all out in a very easy to follow way to make a lot of room for comedy and fun characters and character moments.
Yeah, and I have to speak on the comedy for a moment. My goodness, how funny. I mean, the weekend at Bernie's comedy that you get out of the dad.
Good comparison.
One moment in particular when the pixies are chasing after them, and the cloth part of dad hangs out the window and he starts shaking his fist. I mean, we were on a group text with a friend of ours who hadn't seen the movie, and we were talking about how good Onward was, and I immediately started talking about that, and Michael had to remind me that fourth person.
That text chain was not a spoiler review.
Sorry, that was with our friend Jonathan Gabay. But that plus like the way that they decided to do the dragon, it wasn't like a scary dragon face. It was this big sort of Barney the dinosaur happy face.
It was the mascot of the school.
And the reveal of it was just so funny. And then the dragon eyebrows. Oh my gosh, I was ready to piss myself at that point.
Plus the message, right, of what the main kid, Tom Holland's character, is going through, this idea of wanting to find where he belongs, right? He thinks my father is the avenue for me to find where I belong. If I meet my father, hug my father, talk to my father, he'll give me these life lessons that I never had or didn't think I'd had, and then I can be cool with these friends, and I can stop being awkward, rather, not antisocial, but awkward about everything. And then when he realizes what he realizes, it's like, oh my God. And it's so brilliant because when he realizes it, you realize it as you're watching it, and you're like, oh my God, this is so brilliant the way they're doing this. But then also the journey the other brother is on, this thing of like how out of place he's felt. He's won overboard doing all the things that he's done because you didn't know in the movie that he felt the need to have to be on top of his brother all the time, to be that dad figure that wasn't there for him. He had enough of his dad to remember his dad's lessons, so his job was to kind of pass them on to his brother and always look at the bright side of things. So when he finds out what his brother really thinks about him, when he starts to fade in that spell, you are heartbroken.
Oh
yeah, I would say like that was it's a good point about that moment. Pixar does a really good job of being really funny and then instantaneously punching you in the gut.
Yeah.
And the sequence that you're talking about where Ian and Barley, Ian casts a spell of transformation so that he appears to be the boyfriend centaur cop.
Right.
And they're talking to the other cops, and anytime he tells a lie, part of the spell falls apart. And so first it's really funny, like he's trying to make sure he's telling the truth as much as possible. But the moment that one of those cops says to him, "Oh, you're old, that other brother, he's a real screw up."
Yeah.
And Ian says, "No, he's not." And part of him transforms, and something that you were just laughing about, something that was played up for comedy, instantaneously becomes like just this gut punch because you see Barley's expression.
Yeah.
And that's
shock.
And really that's what the whole movie is about. It's that Ian thinks that his brother is a screw up. Everybody thinks that Barley is a screw up. And nobody knows that he's carrying this inner pain, that he never got to say goodbye to his dad, that's a memory that he holds on, that's something he feels so embarrassed about, was so upset, couldn't go talk to his... Yeah. And again, like to watch an animated movie and have an animated character say, when dad was sick, I was supposed to say go, but he had all the tubes hooked up to him and he didn't look the same anymore. I mean, that is like, for anybody who's ever lost a loved one, like that is such a real moment.
That's what got me.
And then again, to have him have that, kind of have that realization that this movie, what Ian thought he wanted, which was to have that moment with his dad to kind of figure out who he is. Right. To realize that who he is was made by this brother who's always been there for him, and that the real person that had to say goodbye, like I was saying, is Barley. Yeah. It's just such a beautiful moment that kind of comes out of nowhere. And I would say to anybody, I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, this is not a great Pixar movie. This doesn't have the Pixar magic. And to me, that is what the Pixar magic is. Like, I do agree, as much as I enjoyed the movie, I wouldn't say that Onward is on that level of like, Toy Story 3, Finding Nemo. I think Pixar's biggest issue is they've knocked so many things so far out of the park. Inside Out, movies that have just like gone beyond what an animated movie was even supposed to be. That when you have a movie like this, like I said this to you when we got out of the theater, if any other studio, if Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, anybody had come out with Onward, everybody would be going apeshit over this movie, talking about how amazing and emotional it was. But because it's Pixar, we have such a high expectation. I mean, Pixar is just that gold standard of animation that we expect everything to sort of go beyond what we've ever seen before. So whenever they have a movie like this that is just a solid home run by any stretch of the imagination, there's going to be people that are like, well, okay.
Well, and also it had sort of a soft opening.
It did, 40 million.
It opened on the lower end of expectations, and some folks are talking about like, well, that might have something to do with the coronavirus, or people kind of wanting to stay out of the public. If that is the case, if that is why you avoided the movie, God love you.
Yeah.
If that's not the case, go see this movie because it is really, really wonderful.
I actually soft pedaled it. So we saw it.
Yeah, we did.
You and I went to do a screening, but then last weekend I went. It was supposed to be with 4 people. It ended up being with about 20 people because that's what happens when I go to see a movie. But because of people's reactions to the movie, even though I quite liked it, everybody was like, well, you've already saw this, Vogel. Like, what do you think about it? And I was like, it's good. It's not Pixar's best, but it's a really fun movie. I think you're going to have a good time. Because I didn't want to oversell because even though I like something, maybe that's just me, maybe whatever.
Welcome to the life of a critic.
So we go and see the movie. And we get to the end, and like half of those 20 dudes are crying.
Wow.
And we get out of the movie, and everybody is like emotional and really loving it, and just thought it was lovely. And I really do think I highly recommend this movie. I love animated movies, so I tend to go see all of them, and I like a lot of them. But I'm also super critical of them in a lot of ways. Are there any things that you guys didn't like?
Not really. I mean, I enjoyed the animation aspect of it all. The larger style, the more rounder, bulbous style of the animation really worked for me. I don't know if there's anything that leaps to mind that I didn't like. I enjoyed the way they did. I even liked those pixies. I didn't know if I was going to like that pixie stuff, if it was a bit too much, but it really worked.
Those pixies made me laugh.
Right? And they never resolve. There's no change. The pixies just, oh, yeah, we can fly. Great. Now we can cause even more havoc, And so there's not that change with, oh, yeah, we've learned ourselves. I think at the end of the day, they kept hammering home the right message, which is always remember the magic you have inside you, even no matter how far you go down the road or how much you change or how modernized you become, never forget the magic you had inside you, because that's always the foundation of what can bring out the best of you. And you can find that you can what do you call it? You can connect those two so strongly and get there. And Trash Unicorns, shout out to Trash Unicorns.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I can only think of stuff that I'm like, well, if I have an alternative to make something better.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you make that movie better. I mean, I didn't love the design of the elves. I feel like maybe a different design could have been a stronger choice. Right. That's really the only thing that I could think of.
I think the one thing that sort of I probably would have wanted to tweak a little bit, and again, this is being nitpicky. Like I loved it. Like you get to the point where you're really being. It felt to me like even though magic had ostensibly disappeared like hundreds, thousands of years ago, right, it kind of felt like it just happened.
Yeah.
Like people still kind of like the fact that the Manticore's lair was still there. Like the fact that Barley sort of saw things and still this is the magical thing. And I don't know how you solve for that. Like I think it would have changed some things in the story that might have made it more challenging, but it did feel like from a world building standpoint, I wanted to feel more like the magic stuff was so far removed, right, but it still felt like, there was still like these things up that nobody had taken down. It just felt like if you could have made it feel like this world, the magic stuff was so out there that would have made Barley feel even weirder for believing in it. Oh, right. Because it just was kind of like, it was sort of taken, dad wasn't a wizard, he was an accountant. Oh, but he left us this thing. And it was a little bit too easy in that respect.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way you really could have addressed that, because clearly the Manticore had done this, but she had done the magic stuff before, maybe right, making that she had never done it. So these were her ancestors. This could
have been the ancestor, and she's just doing that. So I think some little tweaks like that would have made the world feel more lived in. Mm-hmm. But again, this is being super, super nitpicky. Yeah. And perhaps that would have made things not feel as immediate. I don't know. So I'm not dogging the movie for that. It's not like a big issue. Right. That's probably one of the only areas that as I was watching it, I was kind of like, oh, maybe this. But yeah, I loved the Pixies. Yep. Trash Unicorn. I thought the Manticore, Octavia Spencer, was really funny. Did a great job. Yeah.
Great leap of faith by Tom Holland.
Oh my God.
Great sequence.
Which echoed, ironically,
Last Crusade,
which is what a lot of people think Chris Pratt could take over Harrison Ford for Indiana Jones. So I love it.
He cannot.
Okay, all right. But all of that was really great, the way it was done. And funny.
Yeah, super, super great. I'd probably put it ultimately, and this isn't because Onward... It's the same as when we rate Marvel movies. There's just so many really good ones. I mean, it's probably somewhere in the middle of Pixar movies if I'm going to rate it.
Yeah,
I would say upper middle.
Upper middle.
If you have 3 tiers, it's upper middle.
Yeah, I think it's upper middle. Only because the top tier is reserved for those
the Toy Story movies.
The Toy Story movies.
Right.
But yeah, really, really great. Definitely something I'm going to watch over and over and over again.
Yeah. 1 to 10. What's your score for the movie?
I'd go 7.5.
Okay.
I'm going to go 8.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go 8 in that way. So there you go. That's our review of it. We loved it very much. Go see this thing, as all of us have recommended it to you, and let us know what you think in the comments section below there. Like and share this video on your social media and subscribe to the Outlaw Nation channel. What do you want to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it's at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it's at the Rocha Says.
Anything else?
You know what? We'd like to get some animated conversations going here on the Geek Buddies, and we need your help to do it. So if you're watching, go ahead and subscribe, leave some comments, do some stuff down here. And if you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify or Anchor or anywhere that podcasts are listened to, go ahead and rate us, give us comments, do it there. Retweet us, put us on Facebook, do whatever to get more people listening, because the more geeks we have, the more conversations we're gonna get into.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, you guys will fill out the top half of us if you do that. So thank you all so much for downloading and listening to this review of Onward here on
The Geek Buddies.